Hey guys, my name is Caitlin. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in January. I read 4 books. 2 of them are 5-star reads and the other 2 are pretty good as well, so I'm just gonna get right into it. So the first book I read in January is actually a 5-star read, and it is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So I started this in, I think, November of 2023, and this is definitely a book you want to take your time with. It is so descriptive and expressive and detailed that you really just want to soak everything in. This book follows Jane Eyre. We start in her childhood. She's an orphan. Both of her parents have died, and she's living with her aunt and her cousins. And they're honestly just so horrible to her, and they eventually send her to go get her education. And through that time, we see how Jane changes from this angry kid to an independent woman. When she turns about 20, she applies for a governess role. She ends up at Thornfield Hall, where she meets Mr. Rochester. And throughout the rest of the book, we follow their tumultuous love story. There's so much longing and yearning. Their love is unrequited, which is something that I love in romance books. The way Jane and Mr. Rochester speak to each other is just so beautiful. This book is absolutely breathtaking, and I can't recommend it enough. The next book is also a 5-star for me, and it is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This book actually had me crying, and I don't typically cry at books, but this was so heartbreaking and devastating. So The Bluest Eye is centered around Pecola Breedlove. She's a black 11-year-old girl who wishes to have blue eyes because she thinks they're beautiful, and she thinks having that beauty will save her from her broken family and her environment and just everything wrong with how she's growing up, truly. So each chapter kind of has a different point of view. We do have Pecola's point of view. We have her neighboring friend's point of view. We follow her mom's point of view, her dad's point of view. And I think a big point in this book, which, after I read this, I went on Goodreads to look at other people's reviews. I think a lot of people missed Toni Morrison's point in that she really wanted to humanize every single character, even Pecola's dad, who is horrible, committed a horrible act to Pecola. So I wanted to bring that up because Morrison intentionally brings humanity to all the adults that failed Pecola. But there is so much in this book about racism within your own community, rejection, beauty standards, broken families, generational trauma. Like, this short book encompasses so much. Maybe look up trigger warnings before you read this, but this is phenomenal. 5 stars. I cannot wait to read more Toni Morrison. The next book I read in January is Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. So I read Slaughterhouse-5 last year and I absolutely loved it. I think I picked this up at a good time though, because Jane Eyre and The Bluest Eye were such heavy reads, whereas Cat's Cradle is funny, satirical, very ironic. But also, if you take like an extreme look at this book, it's not very light, I guess. So there are 2 main themes in this book. The first being religion. There's a made-up religion in this book called Bacchanalism, and the point of the book is that it's really just one big lie. Even the creator of Bacchanalism, whose name is Bacchanal, admits that it's one big lie, even though the narrator of this book and a whole civilization of people, also in a made-up land called San Lorenzo, believe in Bacchanalism, that practice Bacchanalism. And another point is that it's also outlawed in San Lorenzo, even though everyone practices it. So it's kind of just this whole ironic play on religion and how ridiculous it could be in a sense. Our second main theme is science. So there's this Nobel Prize winning scientist called Felix Honecker. He won the Nobel Prize for creating the atom bomb, and our narrator is writing a biography on him. So turns out Felix Honecker created this thing called Ice 9, and whenever it touches water, it turns everything into ice. It's basically just this really destructive scientific creation. And once Honecker dies, his kids inherit the Ice Nine, and they are just so ridiculous. Like, they trade it for petty things. Honecker's daughter trades the Ice Nine for a hot husband, and one of the sons trades the Ice Nine for a position of power in this made-up country called San Lorenzo. And the last son, he falls in love with this Russian dancer who honestly just plays him to get the Ice Nine and gives the Ice Nine to the Soviets. So it's a whole ironic story. We meet a ton of characters who are all ridiculous, who are all very ironic in that they say one thing but believe another. I did enjoy Cat's Cradle. I gave this 3 stars, and I'm looking forward to still reading more Vonnegut. I'm not sure what I want to read next by him, so let me know if you have any Vonnegut recommendations. Last book I read in January is a collection of plays by Henrik Ibsen. Okay, I have like so many thoughts on these plays and this book in general. This was my first Ibsen. This was my first entry into Norwegian literature, or I guess Norwegian playwriting. This is a piece of 19th century literature as well. In here we have A Doll's House, Ghosts, Pillars of the Community, and An Enemy of the People. The first play in here, Pillars of the Community, I absolutely loved. It was so refreshing, and I don't know why I keep thinking that word when I think of this play, but that's just how I can describe it. It's also very ironic. So we follow Karsten Bernick, who is a self-proclaimed pillar of his community. And as the play progresses, we learn that that's just not true. He's actually made some horrible decisions in his life that I don't think most would consider to be moral. Throughout this play, we kind of discover all the layers behind what Karsten Bernick has done. And what I actually really enjoyed is at the end of the play, Karsten Bernick confesses to his bad choices and he wants to make up for them. The next play was A Doll's House, which is one of Ibsen's most well-known plays. And it wasn't my favorite. I did like it, but it follows this woman named Nora. She is the perfect housewife, and her husband kind of treats her like a child. Like, he very much infantilizes her. But I do want to say, and like, I know this was written in the 19th century, so as a wife, you might not like say anything to your husband, like that might not be okay. She never says she dislikes how he's treating her. Anyway, back to the plot. So Nora borrows money from Krogstad, and Nora's husband gets promoted, and Mr. Krogstad's job is in peril, and only Nora's husband can kind of save his job. So Mr. Krogstad starts blackmailing Nora and says that if your husband fires me, I'm gonna tell him that you borrowed money from me. And basically, Nora's husband finds out that she borrowed the money, and he tells her he does not love her anymore. He tells her that she can't be around the kids, that their marriage is basically just on a sheet of paper. Literally 5 minutes later, Mr. Krogstad is like, actually, I found love of my own. I'm not gonna blackmail you because I'm happy now. And Nora's husband, he apologizes and he's like, let's just go back to normal. Everything's fine. And Nora's character just takes a complete 180, and she's like, actually, I'm leaving you, and I'm leaving the kids because I need to go find myself. And then she actually does leave. What I take issue with is that her character seemed to flip from like submissive housewife to independent, I'm leaving you woman. It just happened so fast, and her character didn't feel set up to make that change as quickly as she did. Other than that, I actually really enjoyed the play. Next we have Ghosts, which is basically just a story about generational trauma. So this follows the Alving family, and Mr. Alving was a depraved man. He cheated on Mrs. Alving. He had a kid with another woman, and now their son, Oswald, I'm not sure how the V is pronounced, is following in his father's footsteps. We also kind of have, it's not explicitly stated, but I think it's implied, that Mrs. Alving had an affair with the pastor, which is just the drama that I love. The play kind of just detangles this whole family web, and then in the end, this orphanage that Mrs. Alving and the pastor were buying together burns down, and I think it's just kind of a metaphor for the burning down of the Alving family as well. I did enjoy it, but I was still kind of hoping for more, just because Ghosts is also one of Ibsen's well-known plays, and I really liked Pillars of the Community. Lastly, in here is An Enemy of the People. And Ibsen wrote this play as a response to Ghosts, because Ghosts is just a very radical play. Even while I was reading it, I was kind of shocked by the drama, sexual connotations, having an affair with your pastor, and I can't even imagine what the public's reaction to this play was when it was first performed. Ibsen got a ton of backlash and wrote An Enemy of the People as a response. And the main character in this book is Dr. Stockman. He realizes that the water leading into the spa, which is pretty much this town's like main attraction, like main moneymaker, he finds out that the water is contaminated, and he starts telling his friends, his brother who's the mayor, other business people about what's happening. And he is also seen as like a pillar of the community. This is clearly what Ibsen is trying to present himself as someone who's moral, bringing social issues to light. And in the beginning of the story, everyone is on Dr. Stockman's side. They want to close the spa, they want to fix water pipes, they want to clean the water, until everyone starts realizing how expensive it's going to be to fix the pipes, clean the water, how much money they're going to lose by closing the spa because it's their main attraction. And everyone starts to turn on Dr. Stockman and basically says that his worries are unfounded. And I feel like this play is very relevant to today's time. It's very much about morality, immorality, greed, capitalism. So I did enjoy this play as well. I think if I were to rank them, I would rank it Pillars of the Community for sure, Ghosts, An Enemy of the People, and then A Doll's House. I really did enjoy this collection of plays. It was nice to kind of explore a different culture, because typically I read things set in America, Russia, England, so it was nice to read a piece of Norwegian literature. Those are all the books I read in January. Let me know in the comments what you read last month. I'd love to know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!